Welcome back, everybody, to Trade Talk. I'm your host, Niko, and Happy New Year, and I hope you all had wonderful holidays. This is our first episode back. This is episode 24, off after a couple of weeks. And what I actually realized during the break, which I kind of did on Weekly Wine Comic Time, we even did like a year in review of all things media other than comics on our flagship show, the Late Night Chat with JT and Niko. Show, that podcast that we do here on the Late Night Chat Network. We kind of just did a review of, movies, TV, and stuff of 2019 that we enjoyed. And even like on Weekly Wine Comic Time, we talked about our 5 favorite ongoing series of the past 6 months that we've recorded. And I realized I didn't do one for Trade Talk, kind of like a best of 2019, at least of the episodes I recorded, like which ones were my 5 favorite collected editions that I had read during that period of time. So I'm going to have that ready for you guys next episode. I kind of just realized it prior to recording time today. So I didn't get a chance to kind of do diligence and kind of go through everything and see my list, but I will have that for you guys next time, because I think it's a good time to review some of the best things that I read, at least that I talked about on this show. Because I know not everyone's gonna go pick up 3, 4, 5 different books every time I talk about them, but this way, if you wanted just a better sense of maybe some of the best that in my opinion that I had read, or my favorite, I guess I shouldn't say the best, my favorite personally, then I will let you guys know next episode. So look forward to that. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the books I read during the break here. I read quite a bit. Probably not as much as I had hoped, but it's still several different books here I'm going to talk about today. So I'm going to try to get through them as quickly as possible without kind of, not talking about the books. First off, I got Hawkman Vol.1 and 2 of the current ongoing series here, written by Robert Venditti, art by Brian Hitch throughout both these volumes, who I believe now has left the series after these initial 12 or so issues. Maybe he did up to 18. I know he's doing that Warren Ellis Batman, the Batman's Grave series right now. I think, though, he may have left after the second volume. Not positive, though, but I know he did a chunk of this. And, that was kind of cool because Brian Hitch, I'm not a hugest Brian Hitch fan, but obviously he had his time during the 2000s with the Ultimates, the Ultimate Universe. He worked with Warren Ellis before in the past as well. He did some of the, not Planetaria, the Authority. He did that, of course, which was great. So he's had, lots of success in the past, and I know a lot of people compare his style to something of an Alan Davis, at least certain points of his career. I like his work. He's not my favorite artist by any means, but he looked really good during this series. I just wanted to start off by saying that, because it's been a while since you got regular Brian Hitch art. I don't know what the deal was there. Maybe I was just not seeing it. Maybe it was, health issues like a lot of artists. I'm not sure, but I just don't think he's been able to keep up on a monthly schedule in a long time, at least stuff that I've been aware of. Actually, sorry, no, that's not true. He did a bunch of Justice League stuff where he wrote and drew it. I just was not reading that because I wasn't interested in it at the time. So there you go. Maybe he has been on a book for a long time now. I just don't think of him as an artist that kind of keeps on that monthly schedule for whatever reason, but he's done this. He's working with Warren again now on that Batman's Grave. So he's been doing a lot of things at DC, I guess, in the last few years. So good on him. And it looks great. I mean, the art's pretty good in this, I will say. I'm not a huge fan of his art, but it's not bad by any means. And he looked great here. I thought a lot of this was really good. It worked well. Hawkman, what a mess of an origin for this guy. I mean, most notably, I guess you could say Jeff Johns probably had one of the best runs of Hawkman. John Ostrander did some great things in the 90s with the character too. I've read some of those issues. It's not all collected, I find. So I picked up a bunch of the older issues. You can find them on the cheap, 50 cents or $1 in the bins. If you go to cons or something, pick up some of that stuff, because that stuff's kind of interesting too. It's kind of Judge Dredd-ish. I would say. Like he's like basically the police on Thanagar and that, which is his planet. But the problem with that is, and even Jeff Johns had addressed this, and then even Scott Snyder kind of delved into it a little bit during his current Justice League run with Rebirth, is that his origin is fucking confusing. There's been so many different iterations, and every kind of writer that's kind of taken a stab at it has to basically reintroduce himself to the reader as a result. And then I think maybe it started back with Jeff Johns. Like he tried to incorporate everything, like, and say like, yeah, he's like a, like a treasure hunter, like archaeologist or something like that. Basically like Indiana Jones type guy. Like he, rescues like relics and stuff like that from museums, and basically, Jeff Johns, at least, I think, tried to like recognize all the things that had happened to him and incorporate that as part of his character, and made it so like he just gets continuously reincarnated, him and the woman that he was lusting over, which was like Hawk Girl, I guess, eventually during that run, and kind of bled into a lot of his JSA stuff. And Hawk Woman was the one that was on Thanagar, I guess. During the John Ostrander stuff. So like he hasn't forgotten, like it was all, he tried to incorporate everything, and as messy as it was and the shit that he had to play with, he tried to explain it all and incorporate it into his story without forgetting anything, but including it all, and then trying to figure out how to explain all of it. So that was interesting. I actually really enjoyed his run. And then in this, it was basically kind of the same thing, but in this he's saying now that he's been reincarnated through different times in space and time. So like before it was just like, yeah, I've been reincarnated like, different times throughout like my life, and they recognize some of the, the times that he was in other people's runs as different people or different incarnations of the character. But then in this, not only do you get to revisit all of those, plus things where I didn't know were other lives of his, unless Brian Hitch just kind of made them up, like for the purpose of this, because they talked about him on like even Superman's planet in this, like Krypton at one point, which I didn't know if that is a previous story thread. I don't remember anybody touching on that before, unless I just don't recall. But yeah, like they talk about all these different times and places that he's been throughout his lives, and instead of him just like going it, like it's almost as like he could have popped up at any time and place. That's why he's like, he said like time and space now, like he's making it more all encompassing, and making it even more so a little bit confusing at first. It's funny because the first volume of this, which is just called Awakening, and the second one was Deathbringer, which is Awakening's issues 1-6 and Deathbringer's 7-12. He starts out making it even more confusing at first, because it's like Hawkman trying to again rediscover who he is, and then he starts popping into all these different times all of a sudden. Like he starts like having flashbacks and going back and meeting himself, like previous selves, in their own time, and touching base with them and trying to unravel this mystery as to why like he's having these weird like visions all of a sudden, like to be like a bad omen, like there's these people that are going to come and destroy the human race, and he doesn't really know what that's all about. And then eventually in the second volume, he actually does Robert Venditti actually did a really good job, I think, of tying everything together, whereas not only did all his past selves come back to help him, but you find out that he is actually like, he was like the catalyst of like, he used to be the leader, like the general of these people called the Deathbringers. And because they took so many lives, it's like basically him and a bunch of people that like had wings and stuff, I guess, that like took out planets and things like that back in the day, maybe from like the beginning of time. And like there's like these big like celestial kind of, or I guess new god, whatever like the DC equivalent of it is, like these gods that are like the Deathbringers themselves. And then I guess he worked for them, like he was there, like their leader, like he kind of, corralled all these other warriors to take people out, and as a result, they killed like thousands of people. So he almost had to atone for his wrongdoings, and somebody like back then in his past actually like when he got killed, and they said, well, I'll give you a chance to come back to life, but in doing so, you will have to basically repay by saving the same amount of people that you basically killed, as like an atonement. Like, you have to say you killed 1,000 people, you have to save 1,000 lives in order for you to actually not continue this coming back and getting reincarnated over and over again throughout space and time. Like, this is basically like you making do with the wrongdoing that you have, made in your life. So that is basically the explanation as to what's been going on throughout Hawkman's whole existence, through the comics up to this point. So it's kind of, like he, and then the Deathbringers, the reason he was having these visions, and he went to like Madame Xanadu in this, because of course, like, she's another Eternal character, like, she's been around forever, and she was able to tap into something, like, she was the one that unlocked some of these visions, helped him unlock some of these visions for him of the Deathbringers and what was coming. They end up attacking Earth, and he brings back basically all like versions of himself from over time to come and help him defend Earth and to save, like, again, like all of London, because I think that's where he went to meet Madame Xanadu, and as a result saved like hundreds of thousands of people in doing so, and even then, by the end of it, I don't think he actually met his goal of like saving the amount of people that he killed over time, but he took out the Deathbringers, and there's an interesting conclusion with threads that are going to be leading into the next volume of issues, because the series is still ongoing right now. So yeah, I think he did a pretty good job, I would say. I think this is a good Hawkman run, and anybody who's ever, it may be confusing for anybody that isn't familiar with any of his past storylines, but I think Brian Hitch did a pretty good job, again, readdressing it, because unfortunately you always have to with these Hawkman books. It seems like the people can't get away from his past stories because it's such a mess. But he did as good as a job as anybody has, I think, bringing it all together. Again, not recognizing everything that came before him, but incorporating it into a bigger storyline and a reasoning as to why it's been like that for him. And not only driving him forward as a character, but also the events in the DC universe and his place in it. And throughout this, he kind of met, like, again, lots of different versions of himself. Met up with a lot of different other DC characters in this. Like, he met up with the Atom, who was a buddy of his. He met up with Madame Xanadu. Krypton is discussed. He doesn't meet up with Superman himself, but he, the whole thing about Krypton being destroyed back in the day, like, he reflects on that. So yeah, there's some interesting story threads going on throughout here with even other characters as well as Hawkman. So definitely check it out. I think it's definitely worth picking up. There's 2 volumes out right now that collect the first 12 issues of the series. So yeah, I liked it. Next up, we got Black Cat. This is volume 1 through Marvel Comics. This collects the first 5 issues of the series. Yeah, this is written by Jed MacKay, art by Travel Foreman, and Michael Dowling, I think, did a few pages in one of the issues as well. So this was okay. Now, I wasn't going to pick this up initially, but I heard such great things about the series from other people and how it was kind of unexpected and a fun series. And currently Black Cat is playing that whole thief role, like the Catwoman thing through the Nick Spencer run. Like, you find out that she's working for a guild of thieves, and then this is again following in the footsteps of that kind of story thread through Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man series. They kind of continued with that, the fact that she owes these guild of thieves for all these, like, she was doing all these heists and stuff for so long, and I guess not paying it forward. Like, you're supposed to give them 10% of everything you make from like being in New York. Like, they're like some underground like like society or something, and you have to pay it forward, and you have to give them 10% of your earnings as a result for them to for you to continue doing your thing. So that's addressed, that she's kind of trying to do some of the heists in this book to pay the person. I forgot the name of the leader of that group, the Thieves Guild right now at the moment, but she's in the book, and she mentions how she owes her But again, she's still gonna try to not give her the 10%. Like, she's kind of talking some shit throughout this about how she's kind of fed up with the fact that she had to pay something to this woman, and she's trying to get out of it. But throughout the Odessa Drake, that's her name. But basically, she's on the run from her throughout this because she's trying to evade her once again. Like, she doesn't want to pay her anything, and she's constantly at odds with her. And in this book, you get introduced to, like, she has like a team. It kind of sets her up that she has like a couple of other people that work for her, like basically as a team. And like throughout this, you see them go on different heists. And it's kind of fun. Like, you see them break into the Fantastic Four headquarters. You see them break into Doctor Strange's house when he's not around. So after the first couple of issues where he was kind of trying to set this up, this whole series and these characters and maybe the direction that it went. Once he got to like issues 3 through 5, it actually was a lot of fun. Travel Foreman isn't an artist that's for everybody. He's got a very unique style. It's definitely not a cheesecakey style. So if you were expecting that from this Black Cat series, that is not what's presented here. He's actually like a more interesting indie kind of looking artist. You might know his work when he did Jeff Lemire's Animal Man years ago. You might have seen him on, I'm trying to think what else he did recently. He did this Ultimates book with Al Ewing. He's at least some of it. So yeah, I definitely, the art might turn some people off. I thought it was fine. I'm a Travel Foreman fan for the most part. I don't mind it. I myself would have rather maybe seen like a cheesecakey artist on this, like a clean line, nice artist for Black Cat, because she is a very beautiful woman. But I don't need it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's probably, you're going to still get the J. Scott Campbell covers for this series. I do like that style of art. It can be good, and there is a lot of good artists that do draw that way, but it's not like you're going to get Adam Hughes doing 5 issues of this. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would compare them with. And like, you're not going to get one of those cover artists kind of artists doing interiors of this book. So I'll take Travel Foreman. And I thought the book was interesting enough for me to pick up the next volume going forward. It just, like, it got better and better as it went on. So that's why I was like, it was okay. But I think it really found its footing and the direction and the kind of the fun of the book that I had heard about you seeing in these last couple issues when she did these things with the, like I said, the Fantastic Four headquarters and Doctor Strange's house. And she's basically just doing these heists with these interesting group of characters as she's on the run from Odessa Drake. And then also a guy comes back from her past who basically taught her how to be a thief, and now he's involved in what's going on as well. So yeah, very interesting, and it was good. It was decent. I definitely am interested to pick up the next volume. Next up, we got Captain Marvel. This is volume 1. This is the Kelly Thompson run from Marvel Comics. This is written by Kelly Thompson, art by Carmen Carnero. I liked this as well. Again, I haven't read too much Captain Marvel. I mainly picked this up for Kelly Thompson. I've been a big fan of her writing this past year, of books that I was kind of late to the party on. I've talked about, I think, all of them on this podcast, actually. So go back and look if you haven't heard me talk about some of the other books, like her Kate Bishop Hawkeye book, the Jessica Jones book. I really loved those books that she did, so I picked this up based on the strength of her writing. I was never huge into the Kelly Sue DeConnick Captain Marvel run as much as people said as popular of a run that was. I tried it out. It wasn't for me. This was good. I just think Kelly Thompson has a way with dialogue. She has a very good handle on snappy, fun dialogue for characters. So, like, even reading this, although I'm not a huge fan of the character, but admittingly I haven't really read much solo stuff from her other than being on a team with the Avengers, but she is a great character, and I think Kelly Thompson shows that she does get the character. She writes the character well in this. I like how she meets up with Jessica Drew, who's a good friend of hers in this. That friendship has been showcased in other books as well. Jessica drew a Spider-Woman, and I love Spider-Woman, so seeing her pop up in this book was fun. Seeing Rogue show up as a villain, because like I think that stems all the way back from like the Chris Claremont stuff that he wrote with Captain Marvel at that time. He was writing Captain Marvel back in the day, and obviously with writing the X-Men, like he had brought Rogue at that period of time, and it may have been when she was a villain still. I'm not sure. I've never read it. I'm aware that they've had a past, these two characters, and they've been at odds before, and that's referenced in this. And Kelly Thompson writes a great Rogue, because, I've read her stuff in Rogue and Gambit, that series, the Mr. and Mrs. X. So I already knew she has a good voice for Rogue, and that she writes that character well. So seeing her pop in this and having that history of Captain Marvel was just a home run. Made perfect sense for her to show up and do that. So yeah, the art was good. The art by Carmen Carnero was, I'm not really familiar with the artist, but it was good. I liked it, and yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't like amazing or anything, but like I said, I enjoy the voice that she has for these characters and the way that she writes dialogue, and I still found it fun and funny at times, and I really appreciated, like I said, the other characters that showed up in this, and Captain Marvel, basically, now that she's come back from space, she's not part of Alpha Flight anymore. This is, she's trying to be part of the Avengers again. She's back on Earth trying to get her life in order as a result of the fallout of all the previous things that had been happening to her over the last couple of years through the Marvel Universe. Including, the horrible Civil War 2 business, which I don't know if it's referenced directly here, but like I just recall that being a dark period for the character. At least seeing it from the peripherals. I haven't actually read that Civil War 2, but I know that she was like, came off horribly during it, at least in my opinion. And yeah, so yeah, it was good. It was a good, solid start to this new iteration of Captain Marvel, and I would definitely check out the second volume. Again, mostly based off of the Kelly Thompson writing it at this point, just because I'm a big fan of her writing. All right, next up, we got Outer Darkness Volume 2. Now, I previously had talked about this series on the show, and I was kind of not sure whether or not I was going to continue with it at that time, if I'm being honest. I was interested enough to see where it went, and I believe I stated as much on the podcast episode, but I mentioned that, none of the characters were like good people. Like, I was like, I'm finding it hard to latch on to someone like a protagonist like that I could root for and enjoy in this. And this second volume, I don't feel that changes, but it kind of gets even more interesting as a result. Like, again, like everybody on this basically Star Trek with everybody hating the captain, like essentially, like everybody on in this fleet, like this ship fucking hate the captain, and like they either want him killed or want to kill him themselves. And this just continued that story with them like encountering all these weird sci-fi and supernatural elements through space. Like it's not just like, your straight sci-fi stuff. Like they're encountering like ghosts in space, like in spirits and like demonic possessions and like weird creatures, and so like again, I'm not a huge Star Trek guy, and I'm sure they've messed with certain elements like that and their storylines as well. So if that is the case, that's definitely what's going on here. It's just things that I'm not used to seeing in your typical space story, or through some of the sci-fi that I'm familiar with, they're encountering in this book. So not only that, every character is interesting and unique, and in the first volume, through some sacrifice of telling a more fluent story, I felt that John Layman... Oh, sorry, by the way, this is written by John Layman, art by Afu Chan, which I failed to mention at the start, and this Volume 2 collects issues 7 to 12. That was the problem I had with the first volume a little bit, was that he kind of took some time out of the main storyline when trying to get to know these characters, and you didn't feel like by trying to have those one-off issues where you kind of learn more about each character. But I think just the way it was balanced, it didn't really work out so well that first volume, at least when I was trying to get introduced to these people and trying to latch on to something. But then And by the time this second arc and the second volume here completed, I was like, I did feel like I knew the characters a lot more now, and and for whatever reason, it just worked a lot. It really clicked for me in this second volume, and now they announced that they're going to be doing a Chew Outer Darkness crossover. Chew, obviously, John Lehman's most famous series he did prior to doing this, and Rob Guillory is going to be drawing some of it as well, the artist that he did Chew with. So that's really interesting. So again, that's going to be fun. Like, I like how they do these crossovers sometimes between these Image series. That I don't know how that's really going to work, but I'm on board for it, and I really ended up enjoying this second volume. Yeah, a lot of interesting, unique, different type of characters that are all at odds with each other, all hating on the captain. Shit does not get better for this the captain or his crew in this. Fu Chan's art is interesting, indie type style art that looks different than anything else on the stands, I feel, at this point. Colors look great on this book. Just a lot of fun, and and shit does not get better for them. And there's still not anybody you would love to root for, but it's interesting and I'm enjoying it. So yeah, this second volume really solidified my enjoyment of this series. So if you weren't sure after reading the first volume or listened to my review on it, definitely check out this second volume, because I'm really keen on it now after reading it. Next up, we got Dial H for Hero. This is the first volume, Enter the Heroverse, which I think originally was supposed to be a 6-issue series, but they extended it to a 12-issue series. This is from the Wonder Comics imprint. I've talked about all the other books that have come out of there on the show previously. This is written by Sam Humphries, art by Joe Quinones. And this was a lot of fun as well. I would say that there was a lack thereof story a little bit in this. Like, it was basically about Dial H for Hero. Like, it was the hero dial. Some kid ended up with it. He doesn't want it, but he feels like some responsibility towards it, and like he starts getting calls from the bad guy trying to take the hero dial from him, and then basically the guardian of the phone, like the good guy who's trying to like instruct him and trying to help him out through through his travels, now that he was the one that was chosen to have the H dial. Miguel's the teenager's name. And like throughout this happening throughout these 6 issues, it's kind of like a lot of back and forth of like cat and mouse type shit, where the bad guy is going after the H dial and he's trying to find information out about the H dial, and for whatever reason this kid ended up with it. He was the next chosen for it, and he's trying to screw around with it. Whenever you pick up the for those that don't know, these Dial H series, they're all like different most of the time, but the main thing is you pick up this phone and you're granted powers like randomly. You're basically some weird out there random superhero for a short period of time until you're not, and then basically you gotta wait till the phone rings again, and then you again will turn into something different, and different people can get a hold of the phone, but it's like one of those things where it bounces around almost like a Green Lantern ring. I think it like chooses people, or it kind of just ends up falling into other people, like different people's hands, and what they choose to do with it is up to them. So that's why you kind of see like whether or not are you up to task about being a hero and being responsible with this thing, or if you're a bad guy that also encounters Miguel in this. And yeah, again, it's like some of the other Wonder Comics storyline type stuff. It's a pretty basic introduction into that all age kind of introduction, and simple, easy to read, fun storyline. But the main outlier of this series, like the one that the thing that's gonna make me want to come back and read the second volume of this, is the art. Joe Quinones is playing with so many different styles in this, and like basically having like the time of his life. And this, I'm sure this can't be easy to flip so many different fucking styles in this. But like throughout this series, Sam Humphries had written all these like different styles for him to draw, and he is pulling it off somehow, and it's all him on the page, and it's pretty crazy that he has this many like tools at his disposal, like different styles that he can flip, and he does a pretty fucking good job of all of them in this. So every issue, if you want to see like the fun different creative characters that he kind of came up with, Sam Humphries, and got Joe Quinones to draw in a different style is basically the fun part about this series. Like, the story, like I said, is fine and all that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but the art is the big draw for me here, and just like the fun that they're having on every page. Like, sometimes he's flipping different styles from page to page within the same issue. It's crazy. Like, he basically he turns into this guy like called Jobu the Zonky King, which is basically like he turns into a Dragon Ball character, Goku, you know what I mean? Like, he looks like fucking Goku, but he's like a donkey head on like a little kid body that is clearly Goku's body, and like all the animation is drawn in Dragon Ball style. So right there, I fell in love with this book. I was like, that's awesome. And yeah, his name's Jobu. I mean, come on. And you know, he's got like the tail and everything, but he's a donkey. And then later on in the like, so he's got like all these, he's flipping these manga styles out, Joe Quinones, and then he does like a Mike Allred style later on. He does like a Vertigo type style, and then he does like a Sin City Frank Miller style. He does a Mobius style. Like, this is crazy. Like, it's cartoon strip style, like where it looks like Hagar the Horrible or something like that. Just all these crazy, and there's more. Like, I'm just flipping through. There's so many different ones that he kind of played with in this. Mike Mignola. He does like a Daniel Klaus style. Oh man, just so fun. And like, I'm interested to see if this is going to continue with these next 6 issues for the second half of the series here. I am on board. This was a hell of a lot of fun. It's just impressive kind of seeing him do this. So yeah, that he is the big draw for me for this. Definitely check it out. It is a fun series, and but I don't, you know, the story I didn't think blew me away, but the art kept me coming back and kept me interested, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. And last but not least, the best thing I kind of read during this break, Sentient by Jeff Lemire and Gabriel Walta. Gabriel Walta, of course, famously drew that Vision series that Tom King had did a few years ago when he was at Marvel for a short stint before signing exclusively to DC. I'm a huge fan of his art, and of course a huge fan of Jeff Lemire. I'm sure I've talked about him on this show here many a times, and if not, it's because I read a lot of his stuff in single issue format. But then of course double dip on the releases when they come out in nicer hardcovers or whatever. Yeah, Sentient, this was great. This is by TKO Comics, so it might be a little bit difficult to get a hold of this. This is one of those companies that started out over the last couple of years. They had 2 waves of books that have come out. Like, this, their whole way of doing business is they bring out the whole complete book at once, and they bring it out with different in like 3 different formats. You can get it all digitally, all 6 issues. You can get all 6 issues in single issue format in like a deluxe box that they'll send you, or you can just get it in all 6 issues collected in a trade paperback. So everything comes out at once, and like they brought out 2 different waves of 4 books each time by different creators. Most notably, I guess, from the last wave, at least for me, was the book Sarah, written by Garth Ennis with Steve Epting on art. I can't remember if I talked about it on this show or not, but if not, that was really great. But I've heard other good things about some of the other books, but you have to order it online through them. They're not offering it through Diamond, so a lot of comic book stores, unless they actually go out of their way to set up an account with these people, and even then I've heard it's difficult. It's hard to get a hold of some of these releases. It's best, especially if you're in the States, just to order from them directly on their website. Luckily, there is a store I know of that carried this book that I was able to pick up from here in Toronto, Canada. But otherwise, to ship and with U.S. conversion and everything like that, these are pricey books to order from Kikyo directly. So, and even me, I paid over cover price of what it would be because of conversion. I mean, these usually retail for about $20 US. They trade paperbacks. This is a great fucking book. This is basically a family that something bad happens. Well, a bunch of families actually. A bunch of families this is like in the future. They're on a spaceship in space. I guess something had happened to Earth. They all had to evacuate, and they're all living on these spaceships, trying to find like new places to live, like different planets. and making their way to a new life, and all these families are living with their children on board this spaceship, and they all have different designations and are working together on the ship. And a lot of these guys are scientists and engineers, this kind of shit. And basically, something goes wrong in the first issue of the series, and all the parents get killed off. And as a result, all the kids are the ones that are now in charge on this spaceship, hurtling through space, trying to make their way through space. And prior to all the humans getting killed, the AI, the artificial intelligence on board, was given access to because normally before they had to only take orders from the adults on the ship. The oldest people on the ship were able to control the AI, and they were supposed to take orders from them, not the children. But then it got disengaged prior to everyone getting killed. They had to disengage the AI because the AI tried to help and save the kids from the people that were basically killing off all the parents on board. And as a result, it was left disengaged, that function, and the AI now took orders from the children. And then it just follows their journey through space, these children, and the AI that basically becomes like a motherly figure to them. She finds that you get to know the AI. It has a name, and it becomes protective of the children, and they run into some issues along their adventures through space. And it's called Sentient. It's basically about the power of artificial intelligence and children, and you know what I mean, and basically these two trying to depend on one another and trying to survive through thick and through thin. And would you trust AI? Some people don't trust artificial intelligence. Would you trust them watching over your kids, right? And about how the kids, some people, they take them for granted. They don't think they're smart enough to make a lot of big decisions on their own. So it's an interesting parallel. These two things that are forced to work with one another in order to survive and to make it to their next spaceport. They're basically trying to make it to this place that they had heard of, that they're trying to get to for salvation, essentially. But there is a bunch of challenges that they have to face during their journey. And I'll leave it at that, but it is great. I flew through it. I mean, Jeff Lemire, it's written fantastically. He definitely pulls at the heartstrings. There's some emotional story beats in this. Of course, Gabriel Walta, great artist for this book. Yeah, I mean, I could gush about this, but I just really want you guys to go out and find a way to pick this up, because it's one of the best things I've read in a while. And if we were going to do this best of 2020 going into this new year, I already feel that this is going to be a contender at the end of the year when it's all said and done. Great book. And definitely one of Jeff Lemire's the best things I've read from him recently, and that says a lot too, because he's written a lot of great things that I continue to read and enjoy. But this is great. This is spectacular, and definitely check it out. I think it's definitely a little dark and a little. But it's definitely got the same themes that Jeff Lemire is known for, kind of family aspects and obviously some darker themes as well, and emotional things that happen throughout the book. So it has all the things that he likes to play with, I think, and really well. And he's slowly becoming a great sci-fi writer too, as well. I mean, between Descender and this, it's great stuff. All right, so that does it for me today. There was a lot of books, as I mentioned, about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things that I talked about here. And we'll see you guys next week, and I'll be back on the weekly schedule, kind of coming back and letting you guys know what I've read week to week. All right, see you guys next time.